Welcome to Husker Storm Blog. If you haven't watched any of my videos before, this is my second season of doing it. Pretty much predictions, breakdowns of everything Nebraska and everything college football. I also do go into some other sports like the NFL and Major League Baseball. But right now we're going to start off talking about Nebraska and this season.
Now to look at the Huskers returning defense. Now Nebraska did lose 3 stars in the defense. Jared Crick, who was out for the majority of last year. Levante David, probably the MVP of the defense and one of the greatest defenders I've ever seen on Nebraska. Alfonso Denard, a shutdown corner. And those 3 right there were key players last year, but overall the defense returns depth. That's what lacked last year. The secondary didn't have depth. The defensive line depth showed in the end. They had a lot of injuries on the defensive line, and they weren't able to keep it up. They brought in a nice group of young defensive linemen, some big kids. Valentine's a huge kid. He's probably not going to be redshirt. He gets some time. Todd Pete Jr., recruit from a couple years ago. Expect him to get some time out there, too. Avery Moss is a guy who they're really surprised about. Still's got to put on a little bit more weight and add some to that, 6'7" frame. And, he's probably in redshirt this year. Eric Martin, who, of course, is going to be that defensive pass or rush specialist. He's going to be that defensive end pass rush specialist who's going to come out there on third downs or passing situations, and expect him to improve this year. Baker Steinkel's got to lead this. We'll see what Chase Rom can do, and we'll see if Cameron Meredith can continue his playing time for sure. No question about that. It's a matter of when he takes over that starting job. I think he's going to take over that starting job at some point in time. Maybe at the beginning of the conference schedule, we'll see. David Santos is another guy, redshirt freshman, who I expect to get a whole lot of play time. Watch out, new incoming freshman. You could watch out for Michael Rose potentially, as he could get some playing time there. The secondary, you've got cornerbacks and a lot of depth there this year. Mohamed Sese, cornerback transfer, could be like Levante David. He came over last semester, so in the spring semester, and so he already got a head start. And I expect him to win the number 2 job, because right now I think Andrew Green's got the number 1 job pretty much locked up. Keontae Evans is the slot guy. He's the nickel back. He's going to be covering that slot. You could also see Charles Jackson at that position, as they like the energy that he brings. He's 110% every single play. Stanley Jean-Baptiste, the guy who was transferred over from wide receiver to play that position. We'll see what he can do, as he had that great interception against Ohio State. See if he can grow off of that and improve. He's got a good frame. But you got to like Mohamed Sese and his big frame. Great cornerback. Looks like a stud for the next 2 years. There's also safety. Damian Stafford's got his safety job locked up. And you got P.J. Smith and Courtney Osborne, who are going to be battling for some positions out there too. But there's without question this defense will be improved. I think as the year goes on, the better they'll get. And we'll see how far this defense can go. But I think in the Iowa game, we'll see that this defense is heads and shoulders better than the last year's defense. And the depth is going to be impressive. And they're going to be back to the Pelini dominant defense. Now, I'm not going to say they're going to stop running. I think teams are still going to be able to run against the front 7. But I think the pass defense is going to solve those issues they had last year. And we'll see what they can do against dual threat quarterbacks, but I expect this defense to be a heck of a lot better. Now, the offense, you return a lot. They lost Brandon Kinney. Big deal. He was a wide receiver. He blocked well. That was about it. Couldn't catch the ball. They lost their center in Caputo, who was pretty good for his college career. And Yoshi Hardrick and another guard. Now, they return some good offensive line depth. They did lose Klatchko, transfer. He was one of the top offensive linemen recruited a couple years ago. He transferred to Illinois, back home. Tyler Moore's another kid who could possibly transfer back home. He is from Florida, I believe. And he's back home with his family, some family issues. Pelini, is it going to accept him if he wants to come back? But who knows, if he's going to come back, he could transfer, which was a big blow because he was the top guy in that draft, in that recruiting class. That's 2 guys who were the top offensive linemen from that recruiting class. That could be lost, which was a huge recruiting haul for the offensive line. But there's still good offensive line depth there, and it's a young offensive line, but with experience. And I think they're going to play well. We'll see if Cotton can coach them up, because if Cotton can't, he'll be fired after this year. And the tight ends is going to be, the best tight ends that Nebraska has had in a long time. Kyler Reed and Ben Cotton. Ben Cotton's that do-it-all guy. He can block, he can catch. I wasn't always impressed with Ben Cotton, but he's played better each year, and we'll see how his senior year goes. Kyler Reed's a guy who's going to be a guy who's a big mismatch for linebackers, and expect him to have a huge senior year. And the wideouts. This is the best wide receiver depth that Bo Pelini has had. He brought in Jordan Westerkamp, and he's probably not going to get redshirted this year. I think he's going to get playing time, and he's going to be a stud. Kenny Bell brings that speed. You got slot guy and Jamal Turner, and Tim Marlowe, and Tariq Allen, another guy who's got speed. You also got Quincy Nunwa, who's your do-it-all guy, just like Brandon Kenny, except I think he's a lot better. He's only a sophomore, or actually he's a junior, I believe. Quincy Nunwa is a very young wide receiving crew, but they've got experience. Unlike last year, they're going to be better. They're a lot deeper. Running backs deeper this year, even with the loss of Aaron Green. Amir Abdullah is going to be backing up Rex Burkhead. I don't even think I have to say anything about Rex Burkhead. We already know he is amazing. Superman, running for Heisman. We'll see what he can do this year. Amir Abdullah is a guy who's got to step up, decrease the fumbles, and he needs to be a playmaker and show off his speed, especially on special teams and at the number 2 running back position. Braylon Hurd's another guy to watch out for. Monty Cross is iffy if he's going to be redshirted or not. He probably will be redshirted. Beck wants a big running back who's going to pound it, but I think they're going to stay safe and redshirt Monty Cross. But that kid's going to be really good. Quarterback position, Breon Carnes and Ron Kellogg are battling for the backup job. Tommy Armstrong is battling for it. I think if he wasn't a freshman and hasn't been redshirted yet, he would have won it. But the fact that he's a freshman, they want to use the red shirt on him so he can be a sophomore when Taylor Martinez is gone. That would be the wise thing for me to do, I think. I think Breon Carnes is going to win the backup job. He's going to get a lot of playing time this year, in the non-conference and some conference games. Unlike last year, there'll be a little bit more, put on this kid. He didn't really have a great familiarity with the offense. Now they can actually put him on the field and expect some from him. But the offense looks great. Special teams, number 1 in the Big Ten, of course. And Brett Maher's gonna be great his senior year. Great punter, great kicker. He could win some awards. We'll see how the return game goes. But coverage on punts and kick returns needs to be better. That should improve. Overall, the depth is great, though, for Nebraska.